Hello, beautiful people. It is Jynnette The Oracle coming to you today with a message about Saturn and Neptune conjunct in Aries. So I've been meaning to do this for a little while, and I specifically want to get information about what this more so rare conjunction, at least as it relates to us, means for us at this time, and to also dig a little bit deeper into specifically things that we can expect to see happening um, for those people and energies that are striving to keep us in the dark ages, if you will, and what we can do to kind of counteract that, not even counter, how to actually neutralize it, stop it, and keep us moving on an upward forward path that is aligned with justice, equality, abundance, joy, peace, prosperity for all. Okay, so that is the intention for today's messages. If you are new here, my name is Jynnette The Oracle. I'm founder and CEO of Innocent Alchemy. I am an oracle, spiritual life coach, and business strategist for folks and leaders who are looking to reclaim their soul power, accelerate their soul consciousness, and be active participants in helping to make the world a better place. I have information in the description for, ways to work with me, different services, etc. Sign up for my newsletter. All that stuff is in the description below. So, if you have any questions about anything, you can find that there. If you would like to make a donation to the channel, to these videos that I do have the information scrolling at the bottom. My PayPal, you can buy me a cup of tea or coffee, either or I like. Much appreciated. All right. So let's go ahead and get in. I already have the cards out because I know I was going to be doing a bigger spread. I didn't want to take up too much time for that part of the process. I am actually going to do some timestamps. So let me make sure I get that in here first. So I am going to be focusing on first what this message is, or excuse me, what this time period means for us. Again, Saturn and Aries conjunct in Neptune, which just happened, I believe, on the 20th. Let me double check. Yeah. So conjunction in Aries at 0 degrees. So Neptune went into Aries first, and then Saturn went into Aries, and then they officially have the conjunction, although technically, because Neptune moves so slow, they're essentially in conjunction for about a month, if not more. But, energy is lasting much longer than that. So, because Neptune will be in Aries for a while, Saturn will be in Aries for a while. So we want to check in. I want to check in and see what this means for us. Now, I did previously do a message specifically for light workers regarding Neptune and Aries. So definitely check that out. Hopefully I remember to put a card up around this time. Let me make a note at the top. So if for some reason I forget to do that, I'll definitely have it at the end. And then I also have a Saturn and Aries message for all the zodiac signs. It's just kind of like a quick check in to see what the main theme is for the signs, regardless of if you're just looking at your sun sign, rising, what have you. So that is also available as well. And I'll put a card up here if I remember. If not, I'll tag it at the end. So you can check those out. So those have their own individual frequencies and influences, but these two conjoined also have a very different vibe. All right. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first card on this path about what this transit is about, or this conjunction, excuse me, is about, is this card number 89, asking. So what I'm picking up immediately with this is that this energy, this conjunction, which is going to be essentially imprinting not only for this entire Aries transit for both these planets, but also informing the rest of the transit for these planets throughout the remaining of the zodiac signs. Is this disruption as well as divine intervention from the status quo, from how things have been, um, the rigidity around things, the lack of ability to adapt, that which has been non life affirming, as I like to say. So there's a lot of disruption of that. So some of you may have already been experiencing some of this where um, it honestly feels like things are just falling apart on a personal level, just kind of like out of nowhere. But if we really take a step back and look at it, it actually is not something that is sustainable and supportive for you. So that may be popping up on a broader scale if it's not seeming to be an individual thing. This is definitely happening at a societal level, whether it's culturally, financially, politically. These are all multiple sides of the same coin. But, depending on where you are, regardless of where you are on the planet, there is this disruption happening. Now, again, this can be a disruption of the norm, of a sliding into fascism and xenophobia and like all those kinds of things. It could be a disruption into innovation. Humanitarianism is just again the disruption or intervention to break what has been happening to allow for something new to arise. Okay. So it's almost feeling like controlled chaos. That's what I want to say. And in a way, a lot of things are just kind of up for grabs. All right, so next, let's see. Is this card number 104, growth. So what this leads us to think about is or really to contemplate and to question is, what does growth mean? What does growth look like? And this is in all areas. So personally, relationally, in job, career, again, culturally, politically, economically, like how is growth being defined? What does growth mean? What does progress mean? Because growth and progress are not necessarily the same, right? And really unpacking what has been the modus operandi up to this point. What of that has actually led to certain things having to be disrupted, okay, because it wasn't really sustainable or working for all. These are important considerations. And in particular for entrepreneurs as well too, especially in the West or just in any capitalistic uh, culture, the obsession with scaling something quickly, i.e., growing fast, rather than being obsessed with profitability, sustainability, etc., is definitely a place where disruption is happening because again, it's not sustainable. The imagery here is very much grounded in nature. It's not that there's not growth and progress in nature, because there obviously is. There are wild amounts of abundance, and evolution is encoded in nature and life itself. But yeah, in particular for entrepreneurs, like what does that mean? What has that meant? And are you open now that disruption is occurring, either whether for yourself or within your industry? Um, are you able to consider something different? different objectives for success, for growth, for progress. All right, so next we have card number 69, opening. So those considerations and implementing new ideas, and new ideas might not necessarily actually be new, they just may be new to you, right? Um, but implementing something different, I'll say, opens up possibilities, opens up new options, opens up new paths from this seeming chaos or this controlled chaos as a result of this purposeful disruption or as a consequence of the disruption. Okay, so in order to unlock something, a new path, a new option, this consideration, contemplation work definitely has to happen. And like I said, it's new, but not necessarily like new completely within, the human zeitgeist. It could just be like new to you and other people are doing it. But that is key. That's the key you want to find. The challenge to what has been is what is going to force you to make this contemplation practice um, begin, so that you can get to that point of finally considering something different and taking action on that. All right, next we have card number 97, week. So this is literally feeling like the law, and it's just the law across the board because again, this is the message for humanity in general. So um, the whatever the judicial branch, if you will, is for all places and communities. Um, this week energy is giving me the vibe of that being in flux. So it may also again be a similar thing where there is a consideration of um, what's actually working and what's not. Or this could also be as simple, quote unquote, as the law not having as much power or as much impact um, because of a lack of enforcement, possibly. Because the law means nothing if it's not agreed upon by all parties, or at least most parties. It doesn't have to be all, because somebody can break the law, but as long as other folks also like have agreed that that law or those laws are what they're standing behind. And again, are willing to enforce it. Let me get some more clarification about that. Five of Pentacles, or Four of Pentacles, excuse me. Four of Pentacles. Yeah, it's really not feeling like the same reach or the same influence or the same power is being held by the law. Again, this is across the board. Now, in a situation where this is community, tribe, country, where things are in flux and there's more humanitarian, egalitarian type of um, culture shift happening, political sensibilities happening, and rewriting of the laws happening, then this would be a positive vibe of that card because it'd be lessening the influence, power, or even observation of laws that are not, of that same ilk. In other cases where, again, folks are sliding more to fascism, etc., this is a situation where the standard rule of law, decorum, adherence to tradition, things like that are being overlooked, railroaded over, even because, well, it's it's able to happen in that way because it's actually exposing how weak um, the system is. So this very much is giving the vibe of those who choose to take power, to exercise power, to actively engage in this process. And this is, again, feeling very political, specifically after dealing with laws and government. Um, those are the ones who are going to essentially take control and have power and have influence. This is not an energy of someone's better nature winning over, right? Like this is a loose energy, and there are other things at play. Just real talk. All right, next is this card, Perseverance. So with this, there's a choice to make in the various groups, factions, communities, etc., about how they're going to show up based off of how this is happening, or the consequences of this weakening, again, judicial branch, if you will. And this is perseverance here. It's like, how do you want to make use of your energy and stay the course to make an impact? And this is communal in nature. It's not individual. So it's groups of people, political groups, coalitions, large groups of people. How folks are choosing to show up in direct power. Oh, this could also be businesses as well, titans of industry. Get a little more clarification on that. Yeah, makes sense. Okay. Next is this card, 103, useful. There will be a push or a call to action that goes out from the various sides, various factions, communities, coalitions, etc., on all sides. Um, that's directed more towards the masses. Yeah, I'm hearing the phrase "rally the troops." So out of these groups, coalitions, political sides, etc., leaders will be rising. Um, there will be cohesion around, direction, tactics, strategy, etc. And from that, there will be a call to action from the collective, to the collective, or to the masses, to those who align with those same beliefs, values, etc. And they're very much going to be speaking toward to the deep sense of, or deep desire for something better than what has been, because it's not working. Again, regardless of what side you're on. And that could be some people devolving more into delusion on the fascist side, or folks on the other side. So, okay. Then we have card number 43, fight, which should be obvious. So it's going to be the various sides, polarities, etc., um, that are now clearly defined, again, because of that coalition building, call to action, and there will be conflict. Now, this conflict can show up in many ways. So this can be this could be like hostile takeover of businesses or attempts to do so. This could be elections. Um, And I believe in the US, the Saturn in Aries is going to be around for both the midterms this year as well as the upcoming presidential one in 2028, if I remember correctly. So for the US folks, yeah, this is definitely the case. But all over. And again, in all different types of contexts. It's just shifted to be a more broad message, but that makes sense because this is a bigger generational message. So um, now this could also be definitely like armed conflict, physical violence. I mean, we already have stuff going on, so this could be things around those political issues. This could be things around economics. This could be things around religion. You know, if this is in a religious context, because religious strife is very much something that is and has remained prevalent for a while, even though it doesn't really get talked about as much. The focus tends to be primarily on economics and politics, but um, religious strife is definitely something to pay attention to. Okay, so conflict is rising, which should not necessarily be surprised because we're talking about Aries. And Aries is about that life. Um, okay, and that actually is it. So we're left with the cliffhanger. We're left with the cliffhanger, and so the winner of these fights, because this is general conflicts that come up, is to be seen. Um, no, it's not a cliffhanger. There's one more. Well, things are changing fast because it's card number 70. Fast is the next card, but it is actually like it's to be seen what's going to happen. So no, I was right because this is the last card. Um, will justice prevail? That's going to depend on this and this and this. So that contemplation and consideration for new or different ways of being or showing up, coalition building between leaders of various groups, coalitions, industries, etc., and development of strategies, etc. Call to action to the people or those who align with their, objectives. And with that, then particular circumstances where there is an active fight, whether that is ideological, economic, political, or physical through violence. But the outcome of that is going to be dependent on how the sides show up in their fight, basically. So whoever has most skill, whoever is more hungry for the win, is going to win. That's what it is. I'm gonna take a photo of this. I'm gonna keep track of these cards. It's interesting. Okay, so now let's dive a little bit deeper. Oh, I'm drinking a green tea. It's very light, but I like it a lot. Let me check out the rest of these cards and see what's good. So for the rest of this message, actually, for the rest of this message, what I'm actually going to be doing is going deeper into the language I tend to use is dark forces, but basically like those who are aligned with capitalism, patriarchy, fascism in all its form. To be honest, religious superiority, whether that is Christianity or other faiths, real talk. So that's going to be dark forces or the opposition. The light, those who work in the light, and those who are always considered and considerate of the marginalized, thinking about the least of these, anti-capitalist, anti-fascist, anti-patriarchal. It's not ascribed solely to the, or doesn't hold to the mental, high mental heteronormativity. As well as those who are not religious fascists. All right. Whew. Sorry, it's been a week. Okay, so I'll get information about each of those, and there's going to be information about, more mundane kind of quote unquote 3D stuff, the astral realm, and then the lower heavenly realm. And then, so for both those contexts, both the opposition and the light, and then also the divine will that is always moving onward and upward, and how that shows up in each of those dimensional levels as well. Okay, so that's what's going on for this part now. So we are expanding on that message. So now we have an overview of what this imprint of these two planets in Aries is meaning for us, and what to essentially expect this journey to be about for these two. So we know we're not going to be surprised about it. We have context now. We have an understanding of conflict that is upcoming, but the steps that arise before that occurs at that level that it's going to be occurring. So it's that that fight energy is not, it's not old fight. So anything that is kind of currently going on as the time of this message is not what that is about. It's a new fight based off of, again, this work, this process. And it's already kind of like begun, because I know this the stabilization energy that I mentioned in the beginning is already in play, and has been in play. So yeah. All right, so let's look at let's actually start 3D, and then we'll go up dimensions. So There's a lot of secret dealings and pooling of assets and resources by the opposition towards shared goals and objectives and strategies. Or shared goals, not the same strategies, but shared goals. Okay, so everything is essentially like coming into the same pot, pulling into the same things. Um, this is easy to see in the AI bubble that is and has been created by these larger companies. They're essentially like circulating the same money without actually like for a particular objective, which is to keep themselves propped up. Um, that's more so out in the open, but this is feeling more like behind the scenes deal making, which obviously also happens. So that's what the opposition is up to. No surprise. A lot of negotiating, a lot of folks grabbing to get a piece of the pie that is being created by this pooling of resources. And access to that resource to those resources are being restricted. It's only through um, certain relationships or access points, which are very complex. So it can create the illusion of scarcity as if there aren't more resources available, but you know, it creates this illusion of scarcity in the public that keeps the public, the masses, in a state of survival mode, but as well as always coming to them to look for answers, to look for the key to success, etc. So that's how it's showing up in the physical, and again, that's in all contexts, economically, politically, etc. So for those of us here on the light, a way to actually counteract or deal with that um, restriction of access to both knowledge and resources is to work together, i.e., look to the left and to the right of ourselves rather than looking, quote unquote, up to those in positions of power. And circulate, again, whatever the resources are, information, um, physical goods, money, what have you, between one another, or in the various levels, again, that are not in those more secret levels, because there is actually a lot of openness and a lot of room for collaboration, connection, relationship building, and wealth creation, abundance creation, etc. The difference also for okay, I'll say new Earth humans, for lack of a better phrase for right now. But the difference for the new Earth humans, i.e., those of the light workers, um, light worker entrepreneurs, etc., is that we actually create, build, um, congregate around things that are real and are useful, whereas the opposition is not necessarily creating things that are useful or providing value that is actually useful, but rather, how do I say this? Assigning value to idea rather than implementation or, yeah, just implementation or manifestation of an idea. Like, can you actually do what you say you want to do or what the idea is? Like, idea is not good enough for those on the light, the new earth humans. It's actually like, okay, we have to do the thing, whereas that's not the tactic on the side of the opposition. But that's a leg up for new earth humans because what's actually real will last. But the conjured idea world, idea market of the opposition is actually not embodied, I mean, there's no physical counterpart, so, um, it inherently is not gonna have as much power. If we understand that. Like, if we don't understand that, then it's a moot point, but if we understand that, then it's can really change the course of the game. That's also a deeper message, but Imma leave that so I don't get stuck too long in this. Um, New Earth humans also are aware of the fear tactics, the scarcity tactics, etc. So they don't need to allow themselves to be manipulated anymore by those things, and instead develop and have been developing a better relationship with fear, with doubt, understanding that there actually is wisdom there rather than something to run away from or own or just simply to react to. So also new earth humans can also be good about not revealing all that they have, not revealing all of their cards, so that the opposition doesn't know. So this is kind of touching on that message that came through for the Neptune and Aries message for light workers, specifically about that tactic of shape shifting. So definitely go and watch that message. Okay, so that's the 3D, how the opposition is showing up, how we can show up to counteract that. The divine will in this situation is represented by this card, the Union card. And that is definitely giving a rebalancing of the scales. So the trajectory that the divine ultimately is going on is a rising of the collective masses and a um, bringing down of those at the extreme top. So basically, so that there's less outliers on either side, and we have more of a bell curve. So a bell curve is like this. It's like an upside down loop, right? So at the end, it's really, really thin. So we want fewer and fewer people, if any, on either end. So on the extreme here or on the extreme here, and more people in the middle. More equanimity there in the middle is the vibe that I'm getting. And that is something that the opposition very much fights against because it doesn't want to be closer to the middle. It wants to be further on the side and be further away from the rest. Okay, so that's a 3D. Let's actually do the astral. I'm gonna do a different timestamp for this so it's easier to kind of get through. So astral level, so this is gonna be ancestral plane. And the ancestral plane has 3 subsets as I my perspective on it. This is not necessarily what it is for other people or saying that it is what it is. It's just from my observation and experience thus far, this is what it is. Because it may change. But as of now, this is what it is. So at this astral plane, throughout the various levels of that, is where this message is going to be the 4D. So this is going to be ancestral realm, positive, neutral, or negative. Okay. And it's ancestral realm just before ancestors have gotten wings. Is at that point we're in the lower heaven, again, to me, where it's 5th dimension. So it's just below that. So it's still elevated ancestors in the upper level is also included in this batch, but it's not ancestors that have their wings. For me, that is 5D and up, personally. Okay. But this is elevated ancestors, beneficial, neutral ones, as well as the ones who ain't shit. It's just to be blunt. Okay, so again, opposition versus those who operate in the light. Let me Astral is always messy, so let me take a sip. Okay. So the malevolent ancestors, negative ones who, as I said, ain't shit. Those are the ones who are doubling down on ancestral curses, attacks, cords, bindings, etc. Okay. They are very much still engaged with that work, wanting to strengthen it, wanting to deepen it, essentially wanting to extract more for those of us who are in the living that are dealing with this. And at some level, we're all going to be dealing with this because we all have a mix of all these various types of ancestors within our own lineage. So no one's without this, unfortunately. So that energy is there. It is active, running rampant, and it's actually increasing. And again, the point is to extract more than what has previously been garnered through those means, whatever that has looked like for the various ancestors, from those of the living. Okay. So whether that is love, relationships, energy, financial energy, success, children, freedom, whatever it is, that is very much in play. That is very much in play. So I will say, in my most recent message with Uranus and Taurus, I'll try to remember to drop a card here as well. I was specifically getting a message from Uranus about the importance of clearing contracts and cords. So this would be a good service for those of you who know and are very clear that this is prevalent in your field, even if you've done other work for other situations. We have thousands of ancestors. Okay. Um, so invariably, that's going to be something you have to deal with just kind of regularly throughout life. It just is. But I would highly recommend, if that's the case, sign up for the cord cutting program, okay? Or engage in what other energetic cord cutting processes, contract clearing processes you have, protection work you need to do, strengthening your elevated beneficial ancestors, et cetera, to deal with that. But just know that this is here. This is going to be increasing, and it's specifically to extract. So it's not even just to like mess with you just to mess with you. It's like, no, I want more because more is coming to you. Like I want more for myself. It's extractive and parasitic in nature. Now, some other ways this can look like is especially is if there is, things like addiction, that goes throughout the family, like alcoholism, maybe certain types of relationships with food, whether that's anorexia, bulimia, things like that. And again, it's been a pattern in the family. Like those are what we would call ancestral curses. So those things also are relevant with this. Okay. So obviously you want to do your due diligence to receive the professional help from medical professionals on this side, depression, whatever. Receive help on that side and do that physical work, but also simultaneously do the energetic work too. So you're attacking the problem, the issue from both sides. It's not one or the other. It would be both if there is a um, that type of like biological or mental thing that's again been a recurring issue through multiple generations, not just you. If it's something that's just popping up for you, again, do your due diligence, but um, it might not be as much of a fight. So it's really just going to depend on the situation. Okay. Um, I think that's it. Let me see if there's anything else. So this is something that you would also be noticing pop up when something new is coming to you that ends up not working out or gets like diverted. So for instance, like um, maybe you're going on the job interviews and you're getting to the end and you feel like, or maybe even the person says that, you're going to get the job. And then, the next day or 2 days later, they're like, oh no, we decided to go with someone else, or we're putting the position on pause for budget reasons or what have you. Um, and you're noticing things like that. This is something to pay attention to because it's like goodness or a shift in circumstances to a positive in your life, and there's interruption or diminishing of the benefit, is something to pay attention to with this. Um, and yes, this message is coming through even in consideration of the economic turmoil that may be present in your particular community or nation or culture, because it's not just, the US going through stuff, like many places are going through things. This is in addition to that. So again, if you're noticing things are starting to shift, because they are shifting to the positive for you in your life, and for many folks, whatever that's going to be, whatever that context is. And again, either a subversion, diversion, or a minimization of the benefit that is to come to you. So maybe you're expecting, this amount, and you only get that amount for some random out of the blue reason. This is something that is a tactic that's being used to intervene by these by this group of ancestors. And that's an indication to you that it's additional information for you to validate or reaffirm this influence. Okay. So for those beneficial ancestors, and also how we can show up, because we also have an astral body, and we show up astrally. Like, we're not just physical form, we are souls. So we do show up at various dimensions. So we are also astral beings, and we are also future ancestors. Okay. So there is a lot of support and paths opening for growth and progress. Both from us as well as from our ancestors in the light, beneficial ancestors who are supporting us. So there's a lot of growth. Basically, like, the door is open. And again, that energy of, again, things shifting and turning for the better. We're feeling that because that is the case. So that support is there. And again, we feel that, so we're going to be moving in that direction anyway. We are supported in that. So we need to be taking that action to take advantage of those doors that are opening, take advantage of opportunities that are popping up, and putting ourselves out there again, if we haven't been. It's important that we make good choices in pursuit of this growth, in pursuit of this progress, i.e., making, like, authentic ones rather than, like, ones based off of previous belief systems or ways of operating. And this goes back to that message earlier around contemplation around what hasn't been working. And the contemplation of what hasn't been working is, again, strictly related to those things that are crumbling or have crumbled. If it's just something that's been delayed or you just put on the shelf, does not mean it's not working. You just haven't been putting energy into it. So don't start, like, creating chaos where there's no chaos. Okay. Just let me say that. Yeah, that's a message from the ancestors. Like, please don't assume that just because there has been a delay, that means that that's an actual disruption of the work from before, whatever the plans have been. If things have been tough recently, like it's not. Um, the disruption or the controlled chaos that I was referring to before is like actually disruptive to your life. It's not, it's tower energy. So it's not delay energy. Tower is not delay energy. This what I've been referring to has been tower energy. So if it's not that, like, please don't think that you have to construct new stuff around that thing. It's not the case. Don't do unnecessary work. But yeah, it's the will of the benevolent ancestors that things open up and that things move forward, not only for you, but also for um, the astral realm in general, to move onward and upward, and for healing, for abundance. So, yeah, the energy is really beautiful. So, this information about these malevolent actors in the astral are important to keep in mind of. So it's like, you build and do what you got to do, but just be aware of that. Deal with it proactively, so you're not dealing with it reactively. I.e., since you're already feeling the shifts and changes and you're starting to take action towards that, things are going to start opening up quickly. Um, in this space now where you're starting to feel the shift and you're starting to take those initial actions is when you need to be doing this work to cut the cords, cut the contracts, stop this malevolent uh, interference where it starts, so that they can't even come when the doors open, because things are going to be opening faster than you expect, or in ways that you're not aware of. So again, you don't want to be in a position, if we want to move forward, where you are simply reacting. It's like you don't want to wait till something bad happens and like, oh, let me deal with this issue. The issue is being made known to you now. Deal with it proactively now and continually in the process. It's not a one and done thing, to be clear. Um, it's throughout this entire process. I'm hearing specifically Saturn through Aries transit. So essentially over these next 3 years, stay proactive with this. Whatever that's going to look like for you, you can, maybe do like a monthly ritual where that's something that's a focus, maybe a weekly ritual, depending on what you're really dealing with, especially if life is quite hard. Um, Everyone's situation is different, but yeah, it's not a one and done thing. This is actually going to be part and parcel of the path, because this is active interference, like across the board. Like, it's whether you are light worker or not. It's across the board. Like, this parasitic energy, like it doesn't care if you have a little bit of extra or more than what they had, they want it. Okay. And that also will keep more of the beneficial ancestors freed up, as well as your energy freed up for creating, visioning, dreaming, creating the relationships, etc., taking action that you need to take, rather than being in fight mode all the time. Again, preserving your energy. Preserving it in a way where it's not being dissipated on things that actually don't move you forward, not in a holding way. So basically not dissipating. So the divine will in that is what? The astral is not really feeling like it's going to be a place of refuge, meaning it's not really feeling like it's going to be a place of peace and rest. What that's going to feel like for us is it's not like it's going to be a lot of excitement, creativity, visioning, daydreaming, um, almost being obsessed with that which is emerging for the new. Like it feels very active, and the ancestors are going to be very active around that. It's not really an environment or a vibe that's conducive to peace and rest and tranquility and like all those things, and that you can't be feeling a sense of equanimity mentally and emotionally. Um, but yeah, that kind of lazy river just floating in the ocean vibe that maybe Pisces possibly felt like is not going to be the case. It's not going to be a place of refuge and silence and all of that. Yeah, like rest, like resting in the heart isn't going to feel like a place of rest. It's going to feel like the sun. It's going to feel like energy, movement. It doesn't have to be or feel overwhelming unless you are very resistant to that. Um, that can be a whole other conversation, but I'll just say that. So expect everything to do with the 40 to be very active for everyone over this time period. It almost feels like it because this is a divine will. It feels like it needs to be that way because there needs to be more fire or more clarity in the astral. But why is that? Why am I getting that impression? Because it almost feels like just in general, the astral and all of its subsets um, is a bit bogged down or sluggish or stagnant. The soul's there, and it's like things need to get moving, which means there needs to be, yeah, there needs to be a lot more engagement. Yeah, what I just said. I'm not gonna get into what the cards that came out because I don't want to go too much longer because I see the time. But yeah, what I was just saying, it's like folks essentially need to be engaged now in a much bigger way. Like everyone's going to be playing now, and it's needed. Like that fire is needed to get energy moving. All righty. So let's get into 5D. I'll give the timestamp for that. All right. So oppositional forces. Let's see what they are focused on. So 5D is going to be lower heaven. This is also for me, not for everyone else, but for me, where we'd see that first level of ancestors receiving wings. Now, ancestors can also be at this level without wings, if they are like ascended masters, saints, etc. So you don't have to have wings, but specifically if I see an ancestor with wings, I know specifically they're at that fifth dimensional level. So anyway, oppositional forces, what are they up to? That is specifically looking like them wanting to control human beings. Not the animals, not the plants, but specifically human souls. Control as in influence. There's a desire for access to some of that raw soul power that we have imbued within us by virtue of incarnation. That are just literally not available or accessible without that. It's actually almost giving, like, to tag onto that, this vibe of trying to get their own folks incarnated, because incarnation is a gift and a privilege. I've said this before. Um, it is extremely rare. It is a gift. It is a privilege to physically incarnate as a human being. It's not for all energy spirits, what have you. Um, and truly, it's by divine grace that any of us are here, whether positive, negative, or neutral. It is by divine grace. So, but this is looking like actively pushing for more of their folks, so to speak, into the incarnational cycle. Yeah. Yeah, trying to get more of their people into an incarnational cycle. Okay. And that's for the purpose of being able to tip the scales in their favor. in the astral and in the physical, right? I mean, that's literally it. Because of this upcoming war, this upcoming fight, this upcoming battle. Interesting. Okay, that was short and sweet for that. So for the light side of things, the angels of light, um, which is also us at the fifth dimension too, because again, we exist at all dimensions. Also, for the opposition, I promise you, I'm not that tired. Like all this yawning is getting these different messages. Um, the opposition also, I feel an additional component to the messages that just came through for that side is that this is also referring also about those who are incarnate, who are choosing to embody or follow directions of these darker forces. So it's not just like new incarnations, it's also like new assignments within existing incarnations as well. But that kind of control and essentially like manipulation as well as lack of consent is not how ultimately the light works and the divine works. Um, we actually have sovereignty. And what we say goes. Where I have to use this language just because it's what I have, but we're not minions. Um, we are gods walking the earth. Whereas the opposition very much operates and presents the perspective, which is also why the religious fascism was coming up, the perspective of being controlled or being divine aspects as controllers. Um, really referring to like individual gods and goddesses kind of energy. And that's not really how it is. It's the great spirit, divine will, divine purpose, um, not localized, that actually directs things. Um, and the direction is just, not just, but the direction is for life and the continuation of life with pruning protocols installed as well so that life grows healthily and sustainably over time, i.e., there's expansion and contraction, there's polarity. And this energy is not to say that we don't answer to no one. We do. we answer to one another. But even saying that can actually be considered quite radical and heretical for those who really sit in certain types of spiritual religious belief. But it's very clear we have one parent source, and that is our head. That is our spirit. What we have affinities to, what we tend to identify with, speaks to our construction, what we are like. Right? Like, you know, the color sky blue is going to have an affinity to the color blue overall because it's like blue, right? But its parent source is white light or the electromagnetic spectrum. This is where that control chaos is that bumping up against those that mindset and liberation to the understanding of oneself as a divinity walking the planet, in that the uses of our power, how we show up, etc., while there's not quote unquote one above us that we answer to, that it's those around us that we answer to in our collective agreements of what we stand for when we came in. So if we are on the side of the opposition, then those are certain things that we align with. And if we came on the side of the light, certain things that we align with as well. And so we want to walk in integrity with that alignment, that authenticity. But that really is the action to take for those in the light. It's like, however this is resonating for you, or whatever the situation is for you, or for different groups of people, again, because this is a global message. um, this is what it's about. Yeah, it's like the elder child and adult, what's the word, tension. It's like, who do you listen to? Who has more wisdom? Who's right? Who's wrong? What does tradition say? What do social norms say? What does culture say, etc.? And all that stuff can get in the way, um, because value, various perspectives, beliefs are imposed on people in certain regards. So yes, this thing of even though we may default to things just for ease, um, we have to watch that because it can end up defaulting as perspective. And then when you want to change that perspective, especially when it happens at a group level, um, then it feels like challenge and it feels like a fight because there's a level of quote unquote comfort or even power that has been self identification that has come with a default of what elder is, what child is, what adult is, experience, power, authority, etc. Our biology definitely resists change. It seeks out stability and comfort, so it doesn't have to effort. It doesn't look for conflict. It doesn't look for change. It doesn't look for variability because it sees all that. It prescribes all of that as threat. And so this shows up in the spirit as well, and how we relate to God, source, creator itself, as well as higher dimensional beings. And these are two different things, but they have become conflated. The oppositional side specifically utilizes that. And as I discussed, how it's showing up in that regard for this transit. But for the light, yeah, that has to actively be subverted as well as actively engaged in. Because ultimately, the divine will is that we have a direct relationship with God, source, creator, like point blank, period. And that's for all beings, whether we like them or not. The objective is relationship, direct relationship with God, source, creator. The opposition doesn't want to do that, doesn't operate that way because it's parasitic in nature. Okay, it wants to avoid that connection and communion, which is why it shows up the way it does. But those in the light, you know, it can be other reasons. Okay, well, with that being said, I think we're good. That was the message. I'll definitely put the timestamps below so that you can reference things as you need for this particular energy signature. Excuse me. But hopefully that was helpful to you. And that was helpful to me in terms of what to expect and how to show up and tactics to use as it relates to those things. Again, if you want to work with me or if you have questions or anything else, information is in the description below. Okay. But have a wonderful day. Thank you for being here with me. If you are new, please do subscribe to my channel, like and comment to help spread it throughout the ecosystem here on YouTube or wherever else that you are viewing this. And yeah, God willing, I'll see you next time.